Okay, cool. I'm just think, yeah, I'll do this, then I'll do the. That's a separate one. That's like an announcement. Hi, so these are our brand new small ship sprues. All 6 of them for all 6 of our factions. It's nice to see them all laid out here. I've done awful lot of work on these. And these are huge because this is a whole huge collection of ships that used to be all resin and they're now all in plastic, which is great to have. Each faction's all here. There's something between 6 and 8 ships per sprue, depending on the faction, depending on the size, because they're not all the same size. There are new options on every one of these. Some ships not, especially small ones like corvettes, because they're just one piece. So there aren't any new options for corvettes, but for other things like monitors, destroyers, stuff like that, there are new options, which is really cool to have. These have done a lot of work to really pack these onto these sprues. They're efficient and they're heavy too. Like, there's some really quite thick, chunky parts on here, and like when you cut off all of the miniatures, this is a silly thing, but when you put them in a pile, the empty frame is a bit lighter than the actual miniatures, which is nice to have. It's much less waste than our old sprues, and much denser, more packed on. So you do get a surprising number of ships on each sprue. Importantly, in the new edition, you can generally take smaller group sizes. So if you only get one ship on the sprue, it's still a viable thing that you can use in game, even if you just have one sprue. But you can have groups of multiple ones. So having multiples of these sprues is useful, especially when you're building a larger fleet. So what are small ships? They're actually light tonnage ships. I call them small ships out of habit because we've been calling that as a working title, but they're light ship sprues is what they are. These are all your light tonnage vessels that are not frigates. Frigates you get in the starter set. Frigates are always fighting ships most of the time. They're your classic smaller ship. Light ships, the other ones, are destroyers, cutters, monitors, lighters, corvettes. Corvettes are atmospheric ships that go down into atmosphere and kill things in atmosphere, generally strike carriers, but also other corvettes and any other things that are in atmosphere that are otherwise quite hard to target. Lighters are very, very small, very fast usually. They usually do one thing particularly well and other things not so much. Destroyers are basically large fighting ships, so they've usually got pretty good guns. They're usually reasonably fast. There's quite a lot of options for destroyers. Destroyers probably take up the most space on most of these sprues and have the most choice. Monitors are very slow, very tough. They're usually anti-orbital or defensive in nature, like monitors of old in naval history. If you know your naval history, that's monitors behave like you would expect a monitor to behave. They've got usually new options on here as well. Cutters are quite big and very fast most of the time. They're some of the fastest ships in the game. Lots of engines, usually quite pointy. Some of them have special rules that have special effects and things like that. They're not just fighting ships, but that's generally, speed is their thing in general. In terms of what's been done here, work-wise for me, this has been an awful lot of work doing these, a lot of the case it's converting older sculpts that were designed for resin for plastic, which has different kind of design parameters, some additional freedoms that I didn't have before. So there's new things I could do with these that I couldn't do in resin, which is nice. Especially modularity, changing components, thin components, stuff like that would otherwise break or be difficult to cast in resin are great for plastic. So there's some new things here. There's lots of new things here. There's way too much for me to cover in one video, but all of those ships you're used to seeing, most of the designs have changed a bit. Some of them have changed a lot. The new options, obviously, there are plenty of those, and that's beyond the scope of this video, but there's cool new things on here. Obviously, including as well our 6th new faction, the Biofighters. This sprue I'm going to go over in more detail in a separate video because nothing on here is familiar because it's a new faction. So these are all brand new ships that you've not seen before. So a separate video is the way forward for that one. but there's all kinds of new things here. Yeah, it's just nice for me to see them all laid out, and all in plastic, which is just great for the game going forward. They're so much easier to build, tougher, just it's great. So I really hope you enjoy these as much as I'm enjoying seeing them all laid out in front of me. But either, yeah.